My mom owns a Bitcoin. She's in her 70s. I hope she wouldn't mind me saying that. But that's my real hope, is that, by 2022, people like my mom feel comfortable getting return on their dollars in DeFi. It's just, I look at the older generation that's supposed to be retiring now, and I don't see how that works with 0% interest rates. Mm-hmm. And maybe the answer is DeFi saves society.
Hey everybody, I'm Andy Boyan with Chainlink Labs. Welcome to Chainlink Live with Human Protocol. I got Alex Newman, protocol developer, OG Bitcoin laptop miner, hanging out with me, talking about Human, which is a really fascinating protocol. It uses Chainlink. We can see your comments in the chat, so feel free to ask questions. We'll pop them onto screen and talk about them where we can. But I want to get started and learn a little bit more about Human, Alex. So let's just get going. Tell us about Human. How does it work, and what makes it special?
Cool. Yeah. So for anyone who hasn't, read our webpage, I'll give you kind of the overview and try to dig in there. So the Human Protocol powers a decentralized marketplace, actually a variety of decentralized marketplaces, where you can request and contribute virtual work within what we believe is the world's largest labor pool. Certainly, it's the largest one that people know about. And so what does that mean? So right now, the type of work that people do on the protocol is really focused on machine learning labeling. So that really comes from my background of what we're working on when we developed the protocol. If you look at the size of the OCR market, it's hundreds of billions of dollars. If you look at the image labeling market, it's probably about that big, but growing a lot faster. And so our goal when we developed the protocol was actually to make all of human work fungible. But we started with human perception because we didn't want to just make work fungible. The idea was any of the work that you could do online that we could objectively measure for success or failure would be what we would put on the protocol. And so our first goal was to kind of conquer vision and the imagery domain, because once you can evaluate the success or failure of tasks visually, there's all sorts of things you can do. So a clear example of this is, say you want to hire someone to build a chair. Once you can have your cell phone take pictures of the chair, know what a chair looks like, be able to analyze whether or not it was constructed correctly, those are just vision tasks that can be done in an automated manner. And so we started off with just the work pools really focusing on this imagery domain with the hope of being able to see. And that's done through a couple of different applications. So we have there are captchas that run on top of the Human Protocol, at massive scale. Mm-hmm. We also are working on a project out of Intel called CVAT. That's kind of a dedicated image labeling tool. And actually, I think they just added LiDAR support, which is what you need for a lot of modern self-driving car labeling, which we're super excited about.
Yeah.
And then also, we worked with this German university on a text analysis, sentiment analysis task called Inception. And actually, these types of visual tasks work really well with CAPTCHA. So CAPTCHA ends up being kind of a tool where we can eliminate any bias. We can QA all the answers. And then oftentimes for the first pass, we'll go in with one of these more specialized labeling tools to kind of get that initial data. And then just check it with the CAPTCHA space. But once we've conquered all of human perception, the goal is to just move up the stack into more and more complex tasks. And actually, there's no reason why the protocol can't extend itself at that point. So once human beings are adding tasks, I think the person who I designed the protocol with, we always joked, how great would it be to do programming this way? And so as we move up the stack, it won't be like the initial build where we kind of developed all the technology ourselves. The goal is really to plug in existing people in the marketplace to kind of build a rich tapestry of all of human labor, make it fungible under the assumption that there's a Metcalfe's law. I don't know if the audience is familiar with Metcalfe's law, so let me just jump in there. But the idea is that the network of work actually becomes more valuable as there are different types of tasks. And this is actually the way that social media, or actually blockchains, increase in value exponentially. And you can kind of imagine this really simple in your head. a social, if you and I created a blockchain and it was just you and me and we could just send to each other, there's only one round trip that transaction do. We had a third person. Now I can send to you, you can send to your buddy can send to me. So it actually, as you had a fourth person, now there's 16 different links that can be sent, fifth person 25. So it actually goes up exponentially. That's how social networks increase in value. That's why Bitcoin and Ethereum, one of the main reasons why people think it's so valuable. Like if you look at the Barra adjusted risk models, they're generally on a Metcalfe's law. Same thing is true with human. As we add more and more types of tasks that we can do, it means that we can coalesce these tasks together to create even more complex tasks, and actually help build out the protocol. So that's kind of the big vision, kind of starting with human perception, but then working our way slowly up towards humans' activities in society.
So, with Ethereum and smart contracts, for a really long time, people have said, imagine a decentralized Uber, right? And that's one task, well, it's a couple of tasks bundled into one, but it's the idea of allocating a job, and that person takes a job and executes the job. That's a sort of task. Now, you're starting with human perception. I like this idea.
Right.
So let's just start at the base layer. There's an image, and a computer needs help determining whether or not it's a hot dog or not a hot dog, if
I
I
love
may
it.
use
Yeah.
the Silicon Valley
Please.
reference.
Yep.
And computers, for the most part, they're pretty good at it if they got a good algorithm, but they need to be checked once in a while. Is that kind of how it works for you guys?
Well, so the industry changes really quickly on how good the imagery labels are. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. So, camera technology increases. Now we're talking 3D infrared, or we were discussing LiDAR earlier. And so there are a lot of tasks where computers are already kind of better at than humans. And then there are a lot of imagery tasks where computers are converging on humans. But there's still some big gaps in the industry. I mean, there's been kind of these famous papers that I don't want to say they're overblown, because I think it's important that we focus on them, but I'm not sure that it's exactly the issue, but I'll share it anyway, which is we've had a real problem with the machine learning algorithms not performing as well across all haplotypes, or people use the term race. I don't know what that means, but it's just, around the world, our facial recognition doesn't work as well in continents like Africa as it does in China. And so those are the types of things that our system can just, destroy and solve real easily. If you look at it, human protocols collecting answers, I think something like 237 different countries, more than the UN, more languages than are represented in the UN. And there's also, we get a lot of questions that are subjective. So one of the examples I get was, someone was trying to do a content moderation task, and they were asking, is this shirt short sleeved or long sleeved? And it turns out if you give that answer to someone in Saudi Arabia, they might give you a different answer than someone in Amsterdam. So being able to figure out the truth there, or the probability cloud, is actually a bit tricky, and where we come into play. But yeah, everything that we learn is constantly retraining the machines. When people come to us with things to label, first we automatically label as much as we can, and then it's really what's kind of left over, those kind of the hardest parts that a state-of-the-art algorithm can't solve, and that's really when it's not completely accurate, but it's actually much more complicated than that. But that's a good way to visualize it at a first pass of kind of what questions actually end up going to the humans.
So who can be a human? Is it just anybody can go sign up and do these jobs?
Yeah. So actually, there's going to be a whole bunch of ways to make that easier. Right now, everyone who's using any app on the human protocol, so that means HCAPTCHA, our internal CVAT, internal Inception, hopefully, which will be opened up soon. All of that is labeling. Unfortunately, still on the Ethereum testnet, which I think we'll get back into, but it's all on blockchain, and now we have a couple more options of where it's going. And yeah, I mean, it's the goal really is to have everyone directly engaging with this thing, and for everyone to really have a stake in kind of modeling the future. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff where we care a lot about these countries like Africa and India to kind of get less a more holistic view of truth on a lot of
Hmm.
these questions. Um, and then if you look at the size of the labeling that we're doing, it's far beyond what's capable in other off-the-shelf solutions. So just the sheer size of our work pool is the only way to really achieve that. I always joke quantity has a bit of a quality all of its own.
Hmm.
And that's really one of the things that really kind of separate us from any other provider of human labor.
Well, you talk about a probability cloud when it comes to measuring sentiment and on things that don't necessarily have a clear truth. You need probability, you need a big data set. So that makes sense to me. I want to do a reintroduction here. Hey, everyone, if you're just joining us, my name's Andy Boyan with Chainlink Labs. I'm here with Alex Newman from Human Protocol, and we're talking about human. We're talking about how to become a human on Human Protocol and the different things that it does. A fair amount of machine learning assisted human input, but then they've got scopes all the way up to extremely complex tasks that anybody can participate in. Really interesting stuff. I was
Do you
just
mind if
thinking about.
we
Go
do you
ahead.
mind if we jump into the proof of humanity thing? Because I think that actually complements that question well.
Absolutely. Tell me about proof of humanity. What is that?
Cool. Yeah. And so this I probably should have answered your first question with this, but I knew we were going to spend some time talking about this. I don't know if they're releasing the code for this today. I'm hoping that happens for you guys. That this is the announcement. I can tell you it's going to happen as soon as the lawyers say it's okay. Um, but so as we were discussing, I've been involved with crypto since the beginning. I would describe myself as a crypto fanboy. That includes Ethereum. But there's one thing that always really bothered me about Ethereum, which is with Bitcoin, when everyone's broadcasting, I'm going to use the wrong terminology, broadcasting the mempool,
Sorry.
the miners record the list, they're ordered. But in Ethereum, they store it as this very complicated graph. So the miner actually can choose how that graph is sorted,
Hmm.
which means the miner can effectively front run Ethereum and kind of sort their transactions to the front or even pad out the transaction, all this nasty stuff. And it really bothers me. And
Yeah.
so I was,
Let me just jump in. Mark, there's a great blog post that we have. It's about minor extractable value and is the
oh,
term
well,
MEV. So, Mark, go ahead and grab that from the Chainlink blog and pop it in the chat in case people want to have that for later. Yeah, major problem
yeah.
in Ethereum.
And so, I was talking to my staff and I said, well, we could stop this. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, this existed in the normal internet. The solution is a CAPTCHA. And so we actually used Chainlink for this, but in essence, we created a new wallet. It's totally open source, so hopefully it gets upstreamed by the major wallet makers, and we're working with them to add this as a standard. But what we actually added is when you are performing the transaction on your wallet. So say, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word MetaMask, but
Yeah, sure.
okay. So say you have a MetaMask wallet and you want to send your buddy some money, um, or say you have a MetaMask wallet and you want to interface, let's say, with the IDO, and that IDO says, well, we only want humans to be involved, and we're actually going to limit the cap, right? So an attacker just says, okay, well, I'll just pretend to be 10,000 humans and
Hmm.
create 10,000 wallets and steal all the money, right? And I might actually also front run the transaction. So that way I'll just wait to see if it's popular. And if that's the case, take all the money. And so in our case, what will happen is when you're actually going to perform the transaction in MetaMask, we collect some, you opt in for us to collect some humanity signals from you. And then while solving the transaction based on how that smart contract is configured, we will pop up a CAPTCHA. The user will solve the CAPTCHA, and that proof of humanity that you solved the CAPTCHA correctly gets written on chain. Right now, we're using Chainlink as the place where we store the double spending of the proof of humanity,
Hmm.
because we have to make sure that someone just doesn't turn in this proof over and over again. And that effectively makes front running. Well, they could still front run, but they're going to have to solve the CAPTCHA at the right tenth of a second. right when so they might be able to still front run if they're willing to furiously solve captchas and hire a huge farm, but it greatly increases the difficulty, and there's no way for them to reliably to front run transactions.
Mhm.
Interestingly, though, in the Ethereum space, while transactions are still expensive, so there is some Sybil protection just by the transaction cost of Ethereum, but as Ethereum gets faster, or newer blockchains which can do thousands of
Mhm.
TPS or sub-dollar transactions, we kind of are back into the internet world where we need low-cost Sybil protection. I've talked to some people in the blockchain that want to use a monetary-based Sybil protection, which to some extent I think could be good or supplement what we're doing. But the problem is the amount of cost to the user would then be directly proportional to the amount of effort, as opposed to us, where we get some advantage from using technology to make that Sybil protection stronger. But the reason why I bring this up is right now we'll be open sourcing our human wallet that anyone can use and get involved with. And this extension, even though we would kind of want to push the proof of humanity feature into every wallet, working with the major vendors, this extension will probably eventually become a place for you to kind of solve work, and really a place for you to kind of see all the jobs that are available for you to just kind of sit there and click away all day. So we're getting kind of a twofer with that human wallet. And so right now we're releasing it just for this proof of humanity. I know a lot of people in the IDO space, actually NFT auctions seem to be the ones where this is the biggest issue right now.
A lot of bots.
Yeah, I think I was talking to my buddy. I don't want to name the NFT auction. They said that they had a day where one dude kind of snuck into every bid and then went back to the people he had snarfed and sold it back to them. And so it's just these types of things where we can kind of take the traditional things that we know work from the internet, bring them over to the blockchain space. And what's cool is while the user is actually performing that proof of humanity transaction, they're actually creating labeled data for someone else. So it's really taking advantage of that two-sided marketplace to cover the cost of the interaction with Chainlink or Ethereum or any of the additional costs of that proof of humanity.
Is this the solution that prevents click farms from really taking root and could be used in other sorts of ad click ring apps and things like that?
That's right. Yeah, I think our CAPTCHA gets us a lot of that protection out of the box, or I should say, HCAPTCHA gets a lot of that protection out of the box, and they have some pretty fancy enterprise features that can really do a good job there. But this is definitely our take on kind of the crypto solution of how to generically solve this across blockchain. And one of the cool parts about it is, since our back end is in Chainlink, we can just kind of plug that into each blockchain that Chainlink supports and get that. I don't have to write in every smart contract language because you guys made that easy. So
well, again, I'm not an engineer, so I didn't do it, but I'll take the credit happily. Thank you very much.
It's pretty cool.
Everybody, I'm here with Alex Newman from Human Protocol. My name's Andy Boyan from Chainlink Labs. We're talking about Human. I got a good question from the audience that is like one of my questions, and this viewer gets right to it. How are the humans paid?
Yeah.
So my version is how is data labeling incentivized? And like, is this like a bounty system, or is it like a job? Like, just how does it work? And then in what form are they paid as well, currency wise?
Yeah, so right now, the people who sign up with hcaptcha.com, all of the work is on testnet. If you're a USA person, you technically are getting points, not HMT, because of KYC AML. But everyone else, we're tracking the HMT that they're getting on the testnet. Well, let me give a high level idea of what's going on. And so there's a requester, that's one of the actors that submits work to what we call our exchange with some type of bounty attached to a smart contract. So each one of these jobs is a smart contract, and it has actual token in it. The bounty is right now in the form of HMT. It's held in escrow until the worker fulfills the specification of the job. And it's kind of interesting where as the worker answers questions, we have this thing called the recording oracle, which is taking those answers and then reserving a certain amount of the money in the job is unredeemable. And the reason why we do that is because at any point, the requester, the person who wants to work, can actually abort the job and get their remaining funds back. So once the questions have been answered and recorded, the user can actually start working with them. At that point, we reserve some of the money. Then there's actually a later stage that happens asynchronously, where the reputation oracle, a different oracle, which kind of knows the reputation of all the entities in the system, whether that's websites which are providing answers, or the requester who's putting data into the system, the people getting paid. It knows kind of all of their Ethereum moniker, and assigns a reputation score towards them. And the reason why we do that is not just because we trust higher reputation answers more, although there is to some extent that. And users can specify that they only want this answer by people with reputation of a certain size or certain language and that type of stuff. But the reason why we do that is because we actually scale the payments to each user based on the reputation. So the more we can kind of trust your website or you to give us accurate answers, the actual more we will pay for each one of those answers. Right now, you'll see the HMT or HMT points, if you're an American, show up in your dashboard. And then we actually, the only place we allow right now for checkout, because we haven't done our full mainnet launch, is via PayPal. And so you can kind of convert we have a method where if you want to get paid now, you can convert it out and get paid out over PayPal. I am very happy for PayPal and their role in the ecosystem of providing KYC services for us. But we also are going to, over the next couple of weeks, I don't want to scoop myself, maybe in the next couple of days, announce some much more crypto native ways of getting paid that kind of allow us to work with other partners that'll help KYC and get those tokens into people's hands. Our mainnet contract is up now. So the process has begun in kind of doing a more crypto native solution. And I think the answer is, as the network becomes more and more open source, we'll actually give up a lot of control about how this payment happens. But while the foundation is running things, we have this goal of in the next couple of weeks of kind of giving people control of their own tokens and really using it for that. There's actually we designed for the Ethereum testnet, and there's been some I don't think anyone would be surprised to say there's been some performance and cost issues with being on Ethereum. We can get into the details of that later, but we have a variety of other chains such as Solana, Polkadot, Moonbeam, Scale, that have all provided full implementations of the Human protocol to us. It's obviously a lot easier for the side chains than Polkadot or Solana, but they're great development teams. We're so excited about what we're doing, and they've created new implementations which actually have a lot of features that we couldn't get in Ethereum. That'll hopefully allow us to pay a much wider variety of people and to pay people even more directly.
Well, one of the things I've heard about, a challenge of building on Ethereum is you've got to deploy the contracts and you got to test them and you got to make sure everything works right. And that's just an expense and a cost that's just a challenge, right? You got to be very, very careful if you're dropping thousands or tens or dozens of thousands of dollars just on testing a single contract. So do you have other scaling plans? Is it these other L1s and L2s,
Yep.
or is there something on Ethereum you're doing too?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked. Basically, I mentioned ETH was a challenge, but ETH is also incredibly dominant. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, I love everything Solana, FTX, all those guys, Polkadot, all the different partners we have. But I mean, ETH has got to be in the 90s in terms of usage, especially vis-a-vis DeFi. And so we'll always have an ETH compatibility story. So right now we're moving from. I got low battery warning. Let me plug in. Right now we're moving from about sorry about that, guys. So yeah, so right now for our ETH compatible chain, we've been calling it a legacy chain. We're actually doing a big bake off of side chains to basically handle the escrow or order book portion of it. And then we're working with exchanges for bulk payment options, so that way we can kind of do bigger movements over to the exchange, and then they can handle the allocation to individual accounts to save money. And that's really our strategy for ETH. Unfortunately, without something like ETH2, Plasma, Polkadot, we still don't have the transaction cost or free or TPS to get all the features that we want turned on. So on Ethereum, we'll always have a lot of bulking. The notification model that we had, we can't really support from a cost perspective. There's a lot of batching.
Because you guys are doing small jobs. Like people do a job that takes a couple of seconds. And so are you going to record every one of those and pay for every one of those? It's not efficient, but there's different models that you can do if it's a super high throughput chain that might allow you to do that and all sorts of other interesting stuff.
Right. Like, I mean, imagine if we wanted to pay all of our users directly, right? We can't. Right now with CAPTCHA, the website's the ones that get paid. There would be no way to scale that beyond that on Ethereum.
There's this really cool protocol last year. It was streaming payments, and it was just a really neat idea. You set it up $100 over the course of a year or whatever it is, and it just streams pennies by pennies. And it's just not efficient, now in this model. Hey, I want to say hey to all the viewers. We got a bunch of people who just popped in. Feel free to drop your questions in here. We can see them. Hello, Stunt. I am not Chainlink, but I work for Chainlink Labs, so it's good to see you. I've got another great question here by the same person who asked about how humans got paid, and it aligns with one of my questions as well. How do you? So, if you guys are new, Human Protocol lets people post jobs to have humans help with a lot of machine learning tasks. There's a big vision for the future and additional jobs and tasks that'll come in. But right now, like data tagging and making sure machines have good visual input and information or a backup to humans is kind of core. But how do you make sure like it's good data tagging? Because maybe I just go in, I just want some HMT points, and I click around and don't pay that much attention. Or I get my kid to do it for me.
Well, your kid probably could do it, but I think so one of the reasons why we picked this particular labeling task is because there's a lot of research, a lot of literature on how to do the CAPTCHA problem, and so I don't want to give away all of our tricks, but at a high level, the big things that we do to assure CAPTCHA quality is, we already mentioned that there's this reputation oracle, recording oracle, and then there's this exchange. So the reputation oracle is the only entity in the system that really knows all of what we call ground truth, or answers that have been pre-provided. And it actually reserves some of those verification set when it distributes the jobs to the recording oracle. Recording oracle also reserves some of this ground truth from when it's distributed to the exchange. The exchange is the thing where the humans and machines are interacting. And so a lot of these questions we actually know the answers to when they're asked for a variety of reasons. And so we can tell whether or not, did they get that one right or not. The other thing is we never ask a question to just one person. And I think we've published a bit on this. But at a high level, the easiest way to think of it is when a question comes into us, we don't know how hard that question is. When I say hard, I mean like, does a human have a 99% chance of getting it right, 98%, 95%? People make mistakes, right? Depending on how hard it is. So what we do is we send out to a bunch of people, and if they all agree, and they're significantly diverse, different countries, so they can't collude, we assume that their agreement is a sign that they got it correct. And that combined with ground truth are some of the main signals we're looking for. But we'll have questions that are harder. So if everyone doesn't agree, we'll just send it out to exponentially more and more people until we get that convergence.
Yeah, there's a rich history of this kind of data. When you look at massive data sets, I think about like standardized testing in massive countries, the SAT in the United States. There's so many hundreds of thousands of data points that you can look at a question and say like, that's not a good question, or that's a really good question. It really tells the difference between this score or that score. So there's a very well established body of work supporting all this.
There's actually, one of the way. I don't know if I want to. I'll give this away. So one of the ways that we attack click farms is we actually will send an ambiguous question that we know is ambiguous, and then look for certainty. Because the thing is click farms often will cheat and share the answers with each other. And so if we see that collusion, we can test it. And that idea was actually from a standardized test.
That's really interesting. Yeah, stick in those ambiguous questions. Man, I'm getting flashbacks to my days as a professor when we used to make the tests with the bubble in answers, and make sure
the
people aren't
challenge.
cheating.
The challenge for us is we don't want to aggravate anyone. So that's kind of the difficulty is, we want people to have a luxurious experience when solving our questions. Some of these people just are sitting there solving questions all day. So we spend a lot of time thinking about like, how do we treat those workers right? And I think that's a group of people that have, I don't want to say, but I'll just say they've been abused. Like they're often in countries that don't pay as much, and one of the reasons why we got involved with this was we saw a lot of nasty business going on behind the scenes and kind of wanted to, disintermediate that and solve it with crypto.
There's some really major companies that have these sort of, click. They're looking for human input on some things, and the pricing, like the money that you can make, is always so low. Like you're making tenths of pennies. I used to collect survey data, and so we offer 50 cents for somebody to collect a survey data, and it's 10x what they're being offered for some of these other tasks. So it's good to see that you're sensitive to those as well.
Let me take two steps back, because I realized we talked a little bit about the Ethereum sidechain stuff, but there's actually another thing to discuss, which is now that chains like Solana, soon Polkadot, maybe ETH2 are becoming real, we're seeing a real change of how we want to architect the system. If you look at all the oracles in our system, some of them probably need to stay oracled, but actually what's fascinating is how much of this activity can now be put on chain. So, you and I just discussed kind of a super high level version of some of the defenses we have to make sure that people are providing accurate labels. And I actually think those two big ones could actually be done on chain, which is very fascinating to us, that potentially as we move to these, let's call them 10,000 TPS chains, we can not only bring all of the activity on chain. So right now in Ethereum, we have a job. A job probably contains millions of tasks, and that one job is a smart contract. You start moving to chains that can do 10K TPS, you can actually represent all of this activity on chain, and it can be evaluated on chain. And there's a lot of value of having the capability of having each one being fungible and having their own value. But even more so, I think the more that we can kind of disintermediate, especially this reputation purpose of the chain, the more we can provide kind of a general crypto utility that the rest of the industry can consume. One of the things that we're super excited about in regards to this, and hopefully people don't mind when I'm scooping ourselves with this on your show, is actually prediction markets. I'm not going to tell anyone about my political beliefs about the last U.S. election, but I will say I was quite disturbed by the fact that it was like 6 months in, and the prediction market still couldn't kind of come up with an answer. And I mean, like, I get there was a lot of things going on, political and stuff like that. But we had a lot of people asking us, like, hey, can human help here? And so one of the things we realized is with our existing capture interface, we can actually ask these types of questions across hundreds of thousands of people all across the world, and be an oracle or even an on-chain oracle for a lot of these prediction markets. And I think that's that type of internet utility, just like we've done with proof of humanity, we eventually want to do with prediction markets, really trying to figure out, we have to exist in this crypto community. What can we do to help and kind of make it, just better than everything else?
Yeah.
And I think by moving all this stuff on chain, moving the reputation on chain, and asking these questions, which could be somewhat political, into a kind of an objectively measured environment, I wonder if we could actually really change the way that people think about these things. So it's more mechanical, maybe less political.
There's been a big conversation going on just the past couple of days with Balaji, former Coinbase CTO, about what is the truth in society, like as news, and how do we use oracles to do this. Mark Cuban just tweeted about it today.
Yeah.
A very, very similar thing. I remember in 2008, like looking at the prediction markets, because they existed before crypto. If people don't know, prediction markets, and they were off. They didn't work as well. And I came up and learned about them then. I was like, great, this is going to be very helpful. And they were not. They were helpful for a few things, but they just were not that helpful. And they've been getting less helpful, and professional predictors have been getting worse and worse at these jobs.
Isn't that crazy?
And prediction markets are really interesting. I love them. Augur just launched on Polygon with Chainlink, and so there's a lot of really cool stuff there as well. But there are a lot of opportunities for different models, lower stakes, right? If you think about human as one click, reaction or whatever that is.
Well, we would just
really
love to be a data. We would just love to be a data source for them. I think there are a lot of great prediction markets out there. We want to help them all be better in an on-chain way, that they can understand how, reverse engineer why we're coming up with those particular claims. But it's just one of the things that we're seeing with our society. Just taking a step back, this is going to sound weird. With a lot of these types of things, I'm not sure that the answer is true or false. Maybe it's just my brain dead from all the captchas, but there are a lot of pictures out there where the answer is, oh yeah, it's a 97% chance it's a cat, and 2.8% chance it's a dog, and that's just kind of how it is. That's the truth of it. And people might say, well, there's some truth beyond the picture. It exists in the metaphysical plane, and I don't believe in that. And so I think that we do need to figure out a new approach to these types of things, and so just giving people a source so they can really ask the whole world a question, and not worry about collusion, not worry about bias from any country. We hope it'll help prediction markets, and we're definitely looking at working with all of them to get access to.
I mean, that's transparency. That's working for Chainlink Labs and helping build Chainlink protocol. The goal that we're always striving for is let people know where your data came from. You may, if you get a price feed, you may disagree with that. That's fine, but you can find out where did that data come from. The reason for it. And that's like one of the core principles of everything in crypto, right? You can see the block history. Was there a fork? What chain am I on? Who validated this or not? So a lot of this just aligns with some values that I've seen in the space, which goes back to your your legacy in the space for many years. I very appreciated. We're coming up over time because I just got into hanging out with you and talking.
Yeah.
So here we got a couple of things here. Comments. Thanks for being a builder, Alex. Space is right for disruption in Elbow's opinion. So keep it up. Thanks, Don. I appreciate your comment here. This has been an incredibly enjoyable Q&A for me. I like rapping with smart people and learning about this. So a couple of questions right before we leave. What are some of the short-term things you hinted earlier, but now we got double the viewers. We got new viewers in here. So what are some of the things on the roadmap for Human in the short and midterm? And then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah. So, we talked about prediction market. We talked about proof of humanity. Those are the two things that we're kind of building on top of what we already have. Hopefully that proof of humanity is released in the next week or so. The public release of our token, obviously giving people full control over it, has begun. So keep your eye out for that announcement. I don't want to scoop myself on anything there. I tell people we've grown beyond capture. Now we're CVAT and Inception. We actually have a variety of other tools coming on board that are still focused on that perception world. But we started looking at other actually blockchain projects that we could help bring into the human protocol, so that way the human work they're doing, we could actually bring onto our protocol. It's another way for us to work together. I was really trying hard this April 1st for us to allow people to request that an NFT be created on chain. And the NFT creator I had was actually our salesperson, and he ended up not only, it's good for him. He quit his job and is now doing NFT full time. And so we had a hard time convincing him to do this, but that really is, I think, something that we want to see, even in the short term. Is just that kind of something on top of perception, and mainly not so much because it's a key use case, but just giving people an example that they can kind of copy, pasta, and work off of, and potentially build on a hackathon. I think will be the next steps.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep an eye out on all that stuff. Everybody, I will put all these links down in the YouTube description. There are a bunch there. Is your community mainly on Telegram or Discord usually?
Yeah, it's all on Telegram, and we were thinking about kind of splitting it into the Discord because of the nature of Telegram. That might be a good thing for people to give feedback on if they find the Telegram awesome. Hang out there. If you're like, wow, this is way too much spam, I wanna talk computers, not one token, then reach out to us, and that might be a good kick in the butt for us to.
Well, join Telegram, join the Human Telegram, join the Chainlink Telegram and Discord as well. That's where these conversations kind of originate. People start coming up with ideas, build something for a hackathon, and now you got Human Protocol. Right? It happens in all these different amazing ways. So I want to thank all of our viewers for coming. Thank you for being here. Got great questions, good participation. Awesome to see you guys here. Thank you very much. Alex, thank you for being here. I mean, you got a hurt back and you're like trucking through doing the spiel, and it's fantastic. It's been really awesome just getting to know you and hanging out, man.
Yep, let's do it again. I appreciate it.
I am in. Everybody, my name is Andy Boyan with Chainlink Labs. This has been Chainlink Live with Human Protocol. Like and subscribe. We've got more of these coming up. I got another one tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Curio Invest. So please check us out and hang out. Alex, thanks again, everyone. This has been Chainlink Live.